Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron, and I'm back tonight with more Battlytics. I couldn't help myself. Still going deep on House Davian Force Packs here. Wanted to take a look at the Gunsmith. Admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about it. It's a pretty neat looking redesign, and I wanted to see if it was worth it. It's obscenely expensive, and I know it's a fan favorite. A lot of people really like this mech. But let's see what Battlytics has to say about it. So, again, first thing that jumps out at me with this mech, 25 tons, 1,465 battle value. Let that sink in. There's mechs that are twice the size of this thing that cost significantly less. Will it be worth it? I don't know. This thing was produced in 3131, so as the lore goes, I think just before the blackout, maybe this thing was produced. But the cost is primarily due to its blistering speed. So it's a 1015. It has mask, so it can move up to 20 inches or 20 hexes per turn. That is insane. Has a heat dissipation of 20, so 10 double heat sinks. It has an XXL fusion engine, so extra light. It has an extra light gyro, which, if I can digress for a moment, I really think this is one of the best, stupid pieces of equipment you can stick in a mech. I mean, the worst thing that happens is it takes up a couple of extra critical slots in your center torso. I'd rather take a gyro hit than an engine hit, so it sort of takes some of the load away from hitting an engine in a CT, and you save some weight, and there's really no other drawback. So for a couple of criticals, shaving off some weight, I think that's pretty good. Now, in a 25-ton mech, you're not saving that much weight on the gyro, so I don't understand that life choice in this particular mech, but on a bigger mech, I think it could definitely be very valuable. Enough on the XL gyro. Back to the Gunsmith. So it's got basically a standard cockpit, endoseal structure, and then it has reflective armor. I want to talk about that for just 1 minute. For the purposes of this simulation, I factored the reflective armor out. I just counted it as standard armor. Still had the same number of pips, but didn't reduce the damage coming in from the awesome. Why, you ask? Because that would be unfair. If my test mule wasn't an awesome, but it was something with a bunch of autocannons on it, the point is we're trying to set an even benchmark. So just because our test mule is all energy weapons, it made no sense for that. Same thing why, mechs, if they had AMS, it doesn't really factor it in. It kind of keeps them on a level playing field. So regardless of what you're going up against, you kind of have a good idea of how this thing would survive in the worst case scenario. But speaking of armor, it is very well armored. Almost 100% coverage, 88 total pips. It's maxed out across the board except for in the rear. So I'm very happy with the armor on this thing, and especially for something this small, you need as much armor as you can get. Weapons-wise, it's a little weird. It has 2 medium X-Pulse lasers in each arm. The X-Pulse, definitely better than the standard medium pulse laser. It does a couple more points of heat, though, so they're even hotter. Same amount of damage, but the range is significantly better. So it's the same range brackets, 369 as a standard medium laser, which I think actually allows you to make use of the pulse benefit to your gunnery. As we talked about, equipment-wise, the thing also has mask, so that is the Gunsmith. This thing is packed with technology, hence the high battle value. But will you be able to cash in on it? I don't know, guys. Stay tuned. Battlytics on the Gunsmith coming right up. All right, so here it is, the offensive benchmarks. Let's take a look here at the average calculated damage in the top left. Now, as we know, Battlytics does not favor mechs with all short-range loadouts. Now, of course, with a 20 movement profile, this thing could get into short range pretty quickly. But of course, this thing assumes that you're closing at a more measured pace, or as you're closing, your opponent's kiting you, whatever it may be. So it uses those fixed range brackets. Damage comes on at 9 inches, right? That is when all of the weapons come into range. It has nothing else that is longer range out. Now, immediately, if you fire everything and you're walking, you build up 5 points of heat every time you alpha strike. So it's very easy to heat this thing up. And when you do heat this thing up, obviously it takes a little bit of a penalty to its movement profile because it's going to slow down. But what's interesting is you're going to see, based on the red line damage, it doesn't actually plummet as bad as some other mechs. So the red line ACD, if you were to just hold the trigger down, is still higher than the baseline ACD because it just moves so freaking fast, and you're already so close, and you have the benefit of the pulse weapon. So at the end of the day, it's actually maybe a fun beginner mech. I don't know, but it has a lot of weird technology on it. But you can definitely just hold the buttons down on this one. If you don't hold the buttons down and you're a little more measured in how you shoot and how you build up heat, this thing can actually do quite well. Optimized ACD of 101.2. So down in that little speedometer, how does that stack up against other mechs you might be familiar with? So the Jenner JR7F, right? That's a classic. 4 medium lasers on that thing. That clocked in at 52.3. All right, so already this thing is outperforming that. The Wolfhound WLF2, which is kind of like a gold standard of inner sphere light mechs, in my opinion. Now, obviously, this is much earlier technology on the Wolfhound, but still not totally primitive. That was able to do 104.4. So the Gunsmith, 25 tons, 10 tons lighter, hanging right in there with that venerable Wolfhound. But if you look across the aisle at Clan Tech, right, we looked at the Kit Fox a while back, a very long while back. The Kit Fox Prime, 154 points of damage. So not quite at that Clan level of technology. And fun fact, the Kit Fox, I believe, was only in the 1100 range for battle value. So significantly cheaper than this Gunsmith. Significantly slower, too. But, aerospace fighters are slow compared to the to the Gunsmith. So let's take a look at the lethality index. Damage per hit, pretty standard. It's doing, obviously, 6 across the board. Critical hits, 3.4, so pretty standard. It's got 4 gun barrels. It's not finding a ton of criticals. Time to kill was 13.09. So that Javelin did a pretty good job of surviving for an above average period of time against this Gunsmith. Most of the time, the Gunsmith is just coring this thing out. Extraordinarily low number of head kills and equally low number of engine deaths. Again, low criticals, not a lot of gun barrels. The thing does decent damage, so it's just chewing armor apart. That's why it takes it a long time to really establish that those kills on the Javelin. Incidentally, in 10,000 simulations, only managed to bring the Javelin down 42.3% of the time. Now, you might say, well, the Javelin's 5 tons bigger, but it's also like half the battle value of what this Gunsmith is. So food for thought on all of that. Now, let's take a look at the defensive simulation. I'm expecting good things from the Gunsmith because it'll have such a high target modifier. All right, so here it is. So again, top left, we're looking at the armor diagnostic. Very, very good. Solid across the board. A little light on the rear, but 75% is kind of exactly where we want this thing to be in terms of rear armor. I think that's a very nice distribution. And with this thing's speed, unless you've grossly miscalculated or lost initiative 15 turns in a row like I typically do, you shouldn't really find anything in your rear arc, or if like you're in a gross city fight, which this thing definitely I don't think should be. Let's look at the mobility analysis. Despite full armor, right, it still took mobility hits 13.3% of the time. It just simply does not have a lot of armor. So the right leg and the left leg have 12 points of armor, so they can withstand a single PPC blast, and there's nothing happening in terms of critical checks, absent a through armor critical, of course. But then the second shot is going to knock the leg right off, right, because it only has 6 structure, only has a total of 18 pips internal and armor. So you will find that while this thing can sustain some blows on its armor, big chunk damage weapons are just going to knock sections out of this mech. Now, overall, this thing was able to maintain a 4.16 average target mod across the defensive simulation. This is a very small mech going up against an awesome. It's an 80-ton mech. It can deal 30 points of damage a turn. It is what it is. You can see, though, the sort of castle-like look of the mobility analysis, just a reminder, that's the simulation turning mask on and off. Of course, as a player, you can choose to hold the gas pedal down and continue to take that sort of building risk of having the mask freeze, but the simulation chooses not to take that risk and just turn it on and off every other turn. So that is what you see there. Survivability, 50%. Is that bad? Is that good? This is a hard question, I'll tell you why. In its peer group of mechs around 14 to 1500 battle value, it's still in the upper 75th percentile, right? Or the upper quartile, I should say, the top 25% of mechs. But 1500 battle value is like big stuff. That's like Marauders and Warhammers and other nasty things that hit that sort of BV. So just keep that in mind. As far as light mechs go, 50% is pretty damn good. That's very, very high, and that's a byproduct of the fact that it's very hard to hit until it gets close. So if we look at the survivability curve down there, you can see it holds pretty well until it gets within about, turn 8, turn 7, right, which is like where it gets within like 12 inches or so, and then it just plummets. Once it starts to hit like medium range of that Awesome's PPCs, and it's actually a much more hittable number, this thing just melts. And you can see most of the deaths are engine deaths. It's got an XXL engine. That, just in case you don't know, that's 6 critical slots. I'm looking at it right now. 6 in the left torso, 6 in the right torso, 6 in the center torso. If you knock off one of the side torsos, that's enough to kill two mechs. 2 mechs worth of engine hits. It's pretty insane. And just like the legs, the left torso, it's got 10 exterior armor and then 6 internal structure. So it can absorb, 1 PPC shot or an AC-10 or whatever, right? Again, we're factoring out the reflective armor here in our thought experiment. It can absorb 1 10-point shot, and then the second one's going to just knock it clean off. It's not ideal. So is the speed worth it? It is. It's very worth it at longer ranges. But you have to get close with this thing, and therein lies the challenge, I think. Let's take a look at efficiency. All right, so again, top left, looking at the survivability curve, you can see it plummet off, and you can see where that effective ACD really starts to pull away from the optimized ACD. Where it's doing most of its damage, it's dead most of the time, which is unfortunate. Efficiency clocked in at 3.38. As far as that goes on the overall bell curve, it's fairly low. It's not as bad as we've seen. The Commando was like in the ones, just by the way. I don't remember what Commando it was that we looked at. Probably the standard one with the SRM-4 and the SRM-6 and that medium laser. The 2D, I think that is. So this is better than that, even though it's 1,400 battle value and the Commando's like 500 or something. But even as it compares to its peer group, it's still a little less than average. I think average is just under 4 or just at 4. This is a little bit under that. So is it good? Is it bad? I'll let you decide. Light mechs typically have, lower efficiency, right? There's this, and we've talked about this before in the past, but if I will pontificate for a moment. I've heard rumors that they're coming out with a battle value 3. I think somebody said that somewhere. I think that's a phenomenal idea. And I hope one of the things that they fix is the weird weight that speed holds over both the offensive calculation and the defensive calculation in battle value. I think it's grossly overweighted because you're paying for it on both ends. So when they calculate battle value, there's like all this math that goes into an offensive number and a defensive number. Speed's factored into both. And I get it. Like, speed gets you in closer to shoot more. Speed also keeps you alive, but you can't double count it. So light mechs always suffer in efficiency because their battle value tends to be disproportionately higher. There's also like a baseline entry fee for battle mech. So the bigger you get, the further away or the less percentage that sort of like baseline value, if you will, is in the overall picture. So I think this thing suffers from both of those things. I mean, obviously the mask can move exceptionally fast, claiming a +5 target mod. That's absurd, right? Your average Gunnery 4 nerd is going to be rolling 9s at point blank range. Think about that. Like, just gunnery 4 plus a TMM of 5 or target mod of 5, you're at 9s. The thing could be running right across your face and you still can't hit it. At medium range, you're at 11s. And that's if you're standing still. So a +5 is astronomically high, I get it. And that should be factored into the cost. But at the same time, I think speed is overweighted. And then it's got full armor too, which is another thing. And although this doesn't have jump jets, I think jump jets cost way too much, if anybody cares. All right. Lots of diatribes in this one. Back to the facts. No more opinions. So gunnery sensitivity. This is very interesting. This is, I think, the first one I've ever seen that you could shoot pool on. It's very, very flat, almost a 0.007 to be exact on gunnery sensitivity. That means the gunsmith don't care. You could be mediocre. You could be the best shot in the world. At the end of the day, the efficiency, right, the damage to battle value output is basically the same. Does that mean I would put a gunnery 4 pilot in this? Yeah, probably, because it costs a fortune, and I got to be close to shoot everything anyway, so that's probably what I would do with this. And you can see there, we don't really talk about this chart too much, but below the gunnery sensitivity, there's effective damage by gunnery, right? So 4, 3, 2, 1, and then 0. So at gunnery 2, this thing, effective ACD is 69.33. At gunnery 4, it's 47.2. That's over 12 turns. Like, is anybody going to notice? Probably not, because by the time this thing gets in range, it's going to get killed anyway. So you might as well just run in and do your worst with it. Maybe draw some fire. So overall, I don't know. Let's jump into roles and sort of threat and how we would play this thing on the battlefield. I'm not sure I have a great idea yet. I'm very excited to read the comments on this. But here we go. Let's jump in. All right, so 2 ideas. Number 1, run it as a scout, right? And by that, I mean just try to keep it away from things, sneak around the backside, be a harasser. You can obviously outflank. You can move through almost any terrain with this. You can get behind, some of their big, slow, vulnerable mechs, and you can just be a nuisance with it. It's a very, very expensive mech to do that with, though. Like, I would almost rather run around in a flea that is significantly less expensive. But this thing does have 4 medium X-pulse lasers. If you fire everything, it's a 24-point alpha strike. Like, that's not insignificant. You could play this thing as a strike mech. I think about it in the context of, like, is this thing a light mech hunter? Because, again, you've got the pulse lasers. They're really helping out your gunnery. You need to be close anyway, and you have the speed to basically run down anything in the game very, very quickly. There are very few mechs that, I like the Fireball, I think the Dart. There's very few mechs that I can think of off the top of my head. Obviously, there's some Locusts that are absurdly fast, but there's very few off the top of my head that are in this like 9:14, 10:15 speed range, and then with mask on top of that. So this thing, again, you could run down anything. So maybe it is meant to be a light hunter. Let me know. Let me know what you think. Or a hovercraft hunter. It's the bane of the Savannah Master. It is literally the anti-Savannah Master. Maybe that's what it's for. I don't know. Leave it in the comments. Let me know. Let me know how you would use this thing. I think it's a very cool mech. It's a really neat design. One of the things I love about BattleTech is when they have these weird sort of quirky mechs. Like I always talk about the quick draw, right? Like what are you supposed to do with this thing, right? But it's almost very realistic in a sense. Now this thing, purpose built, it's very fast, it's streamlined, right? It's got reflective armor, it's got the pulse lasers. Like clearly you're supposed to get close, but when you do against anything big, it dies. So I don't know. I think this is a very cool, like realistic design. I like that about this. But again, I'm sort of not 100% sure if I would use this because of the cost. I mean, there are so many better things I think I would take, but as Tom always likes to say, I'm just like a meat and potatoes kind of player. Like, give me a Marauder with like lots of armor and some basic PPCs, and like that's reliable. I can work with that. This is almost like if you're a gambling addict and you want, like, this is the mech for you, because like it may work tremendously, it may go horribly wrong. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I'm all wrapped up. If you want to get a gunsmith, you know where to go. Ares Games and Minis. He's got the Davian packs. He's got all the packs from the Mercenaries Kickstarter. The like the battle armor, the aerospace fighters, all kinds of cool stuff over there at Ares Games and Minis. Also, you can get terrain. You can get battle mats. I believe he's got Frontline Gaming battle mats over there. So all sorts of stuff that you can get for your BattleTech addiction. Also, speaking of addiction, if you want to get more BattleTech stuff from DFA, you can come on over to Patreon. It's free to join. To be a member, it's as little as $2 a month. Every different tier gets access to different things. We have, sneak peeks and polls and all sorts of great stuff that goes out to our patrons. Pilot dossiers, which is one of my favorites. So lots of neat stuff that we're throwing out there. And of course, you get the channel updates and the behind the scenes and things like that. You get to know what we're doing, what we're thinking over here at DFA. So thanks again to all of our amazing patrons. You guys are fantastic, and we really do genuinely appreciate you. Because without you, this just wouldn't be worth it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That said, guys, I'm all wrapped up. So again, thank you for watching. Definitely please leave a comment. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe too. But leave a comment about the Gunsmith. I want to know how to use this thing. I want to know your experiences with this thing. When I reviewed the Wraith and I was like, this is meh, everybody got so mad. Like, there were so many people that were raging in the comments against me. And I apologize for my opinion on that. But like, this feels the same. Like, cool story. It's fast and it's got some pulse lasers. Like, I don't get it. But tell me if you've had experiences with it. I want to know. But that said, guys, I'm all wrapped up. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a great night.